Hey there, I'm Sully, and as always, welcome to the Gun Club. Alrighty, folks, I'm sorry I'm running a little bit late kicking off tonight. Unfortunately, having a little bit of technical issues. Um, for those of y'all who don't know, we had a pretty bad lightning strike in the subdivision over the last week, and I'm still dealing with some lasting computer issues and some other related issues. So, trying to do this from a different location on a different machine, and that's making it all the more fun to work through. Needless to say, trying to do my best. That's kind of why I've been a little scarce in and out. That, and I've been bouncing around on a couple of other platforms, a couple of other channels with a couple of other folks. Um, had a really funny chat on, I believe it was Monday evening, with Ariana Jacob over on the Little Miss Jacob channel. We got talking about YouTube and Rumble and some of the different platforms and the different requirements and censorship and how some of the rules they put us under don't really know what makes sense and what doesn't. When you read it, what can we do? What can't we do? What are we going to get in trouble for? Don't know. Secondly, got to have a little brief chat the other night, late night, with Sniper over on the Sniper's Nest. We got into everything you didn't want to know about the furries in the Utah school system. So, yeah, that was always a fun night to have. But, trust me, it's a funny show. You get a few laughs out of it. And yes, there are furries running loose in Utah. I don't know whether they've bitten any Mormons yet or not. We're not quite sure. That being said, please bear with me if the audio isn't quite the greatest on this. I wanted to do this show today, and when I started setting up tonight, the camera wouldn't work on the other system. So I'm actually sitting in a different room on a portable streaming setup, trying to get my best to sort of get the show on because the show must go on. Besides, canceling it would be way too freaking easy. Alrighty, that being said, I posted out tonight. We're going to get into a lot of legal issues. Now, you may have heard of a bunch of some of these. You may not have heard of some of them. There's been a lot going on in the legal field related to the 2A community. And I wanted to get a bunch of it out there. When we look at some of the things going on, some of it's good, some of it's bad. And well, I got bad news for you. There's one story we're going to go through that's just plain ugly. Also, if I can get the camera and the setup and everything running properly for tomorrow night, I am planning a late night or a later night show tomorrow night, grab bag. I've actually got a bunch of video that I cut of some really interesting incidents that we're going to get to go over and look at and sort of work through these incidents and try to figure out what went right, what went wrong, and kind of how it played out. So, be that as it may, that's kind of where we're going to be. But for tonight, let's dig into some legal stuff. Now, when we talk about legal stuff, again, some good, some bad, and well, one story that's just plain a travesty on all levels. So let's see what we've got here. First off, SCOTUS news from our beautiful Supreme Court of the United States. Got one piece of good news from them. If you haven't heard, the Vanderstock v. Garland case, which is the frame and receiver rule, or the, so we say, the ghost gun rule, or trying to define what is a firearm versus what is a piece of metal or a piece of plastic or a piece of polymer. Is it illegal? Where do the legalities fall? The ATF has changed a lot of rules. They seem to be changing things sporadically. And Vanderstock v. Garland is trying to basically iron out and say, okay, you can't say something is okay for the last 200 years that we've been a country, wake up, write a new rule, and then go prosecute people because of it. That doesn't work. And that's kind of a big case because of the fact, again, whether you want to build a ghost gun or you want to build something from a frame up, build an 80%, whatever the case may be, or if you want to go out and try your hand at 3D printing a gun or developing something else or making something new or designing something. Should you have to be like an FFL and a manufacturer and all this stuff to do it? Now, if you're doing it for sale, if you're doing it commercially for the big bucks, hey, yeah, okay, fine. Maybe I can see that. But if you're doing it to tinker in your basement, should the feds be kicking down your door and calling you an unauthorized manufacturer? when you're tinkering in your basement, you're not hurting anyone. You're a law-abiding citizen. You're not a prohibited possessor. And even if you do happen to turn that plastic or that piece of metal into something that is a functional firearm, congratulations. Newsflash, that's how most of the firearms in the early part of this country were made. A lot of it was homemade. A lot of it was made by people working together. If a father and son want to go build a 22 or a 223 rifle in a workshop, more power to them in my book. But of course, we have to overstep. And that's where Vanderstock v. Garland is coming in, trying to deal with a lot of that oversteppery, so to speak. So the good news is the Supreme Court has given it what's called a writ of certiorari. Basically, they've agreed to hear the case. Now, as we all know, the Supreme Court, they hear what they want to hear. They will agree to hear the cases that they feel are worth their time, effort, or energy. If they didn't feel like there's anything worth hearing, they say no, they don't grant it a writ, and there you go, you're stuck with what the lower court said. So, given the fact that this is a major case, it's a big 2A case, and it can have a lot of consequences in other spots of the 2A world, hopefully we go ahead and we get the, goodies up and running right now with Vanderstock v. Garland, them granting it. The other thing cool to note, this is the fourth 2A case that the Supreme Court is going to be hearing. They've already heard arguments on Rahimi. Let's see, there's the Cargill v. Garland, which is the bump stock case, which hasn't been argued yet. Then again, Vanderstock v. Garland. So there's one other one, I'm trying to remember which one it was. Someone tell me in the chat. I know I can keep up with Rahimi. I can guess I think there's another one as far as if somebody is allowed to own a firearm who uses medicinal MJ. So we'll see. A lot there. The good thing is SCOTUS is hearing these cases. Hopefully we can get a decent ruling. A lot of them are post-Bruin. One other court case to mention, state of Washington, they're trying to get into their whole magazine capacity regulations and everything else. They had gotten an injunction stopping the enforcement of the magazine capacity rule. That injunction lasted less than 2 hours, and they actually put a blockade on the injunction until the court case works through. Now, the decisions in the case that gave them the injunction looked very good. The commissioner in the court above the court that gave the injunction, the state Supreme Court, not even a judge, but a commissioner, put a hold on the injunction. So no normal capacity, no 30 rounders in Washington for now. Hopefully, as this works through the court, we'll be able to get it done. Again, we're going to try to worry about 30 round magazines or anything over 10 is, I think, what they're trying to do, because that's going to stop all the problems. We all know how well that's going to work. Again, fix the problem we don't have, folks. Now, let's see. Next one. Got a quick update in the Baldwin case. Now, this one is a small update, but it's always fun. Mr. Alec, in his infinite wisdom, he did not take a plea. There was a plea offer, as you remember. Hannah Gutierrez Reed had been convicted, had been sentenced. Assistant Director Dave Hall took a plea deal, 6 months unsupervised probation, no jail time. He's already done. There was a plea deal that was offered to Alec. He decided he wasn't going to take the plea deal. Instead, his attorneys went out publicly and said what a POS the prosecutor was. Not smart at all. Let's go ahead and see if we can throw gas on this fire. Personally, if I was Alec's attorney, and we all know I ain't an attorney, I wouldn't leave it for me to try to pass a bar. But anyway, if I was Alec's attorney, folks, I'd be the first one telling him, you might want to look at a plea deal here. If we can get out of this without jail time. I mean, let's face it. Hannah got to go to jail. Alec doesn't probably do real well in jail. I think Mary's joined us. She's a little bit late. That's okay. I'm late too, dear. Don't feel bad. I'm still dealing with computer issues here. But, Hannah didn't take a plea. She got 18 months in jail as a violent criminal, has to serve a minimum of 85% of it before she can get out. I personally don't think Alec necessarily wants prison time or warrants his actions warrant prison time. I do think he's got to start really quickly humbling up and admitting, yeah, I screwed up. I did wrong. I'll do a bunch of community service, whatever the case may be. But until then, his attorneys are filing lots and lots of motions because they're going to earn their $500 or $1,000 an hour. He's got one local attorney who's coordinating everything out in New Mexico, and the rest are all pro-hawk hired guns from New York and Texas. I think he's got 7 or 8 attorneys on his dream team right now. It's going to be interesting to see if he manages to piss away all that money and still gets to go do something in a jumpsuit. Like I said, Alec, I think maybe instead of getting a dream team that's charging you, by the hour, thousands and thousands of dollars, maybe if you get smart and get a second, third year public defender. They actually know what they're talking about. They actually make deals in court. And they'd be the first one to say, look, one of the other people involved got like serious time over this. What do you say we cut you a deal, cut your losses, and give you your slap on the wrist and we deal with it? But no, instead, he and his dream team want to insult the local prosecutor, want to insult the local court system, etc. I mean, after all, they're from New York City. Yeah. Let's see how this works out. Could be a fun trial to watch. Supposed to start right now, I believe, July 9th. Right now, again, preliminary motions going through. Nothing that I've seen in the preliminary motions is anything useful or intelligent or, otherwise important, or as Mel would say, his motions in limine. Sorry, I'll get yelled at if I don't say that shit. But again, we'll see how this works out for Alec. Hope it does. Dude, be careful. Tennessee. Lots of news from Tennessee. Lots and lots of news. First off, Tennessee passed a law, or went through the legislature. Still waiting to see if the governor's going to sign it or not. He can either sign it or he can let it run through and it goes into effect at the end of session, allowing teachers and staff members to possess firearms at the school if the school goes along with it. So basically, up to this point, even if the school wanted to, they could not let a teacher carry a firearm on property. Now, if the school wants to, not only will they be able to allow teachers to carry, but there's actually a special course they're going to go through on school policing protocols. They're going to have to qualify once a year. There's going to be some structure to it. It's not just going to be like, let's all issue every home ec teacher an AR-15 and a few 30-round mags and hope for the best. Although that would be kind of fun. Anyway, there's going to be structure. They are going to put something together as far as curriculum and training and the type of thing they go through for the SROs. There's going to be annual requals, but it's going to potentially allow the schools and the teachers that want to do it the chance to do it. Now, this one has been fought in Tennessee. This one has been absolutely chaos in Tennessee as they've been fighting over this. So we've got one side that their argument is, look, this can be better. This can help school safety. They bring up things like there's never been an active shooter in a school that had armed teachers. God, never. That's 100% success rate. And now other people say, well, teachers shouldn't have to be security or police officers. We're not training. I went to school to be a teacher, not a police officer. I get that. Now, if a teacher does not want to or a staff member does not want to, I don't think they should be forced or pushed into it. However, if they do want to and they've got the background, let's face it, for 1 year, I taught a 4th period class at one of our local high schools. I could not carry at the school, but wait a minute. I've taken all kinds of classes and qualifications and spend as much time at the range as I possibly can. So I can see both sides of it. Okay. Mel, I see we've got your voice in here. Good evening, ma'am. You are most favorite mouse as always. Okay, so teachers should not have to be security guards. I'll agree. On the other side of the coin, should we allow them to be if they want to be? You know, now I'll agree. Children shouldn't have to fear for their lives when they go to school. There's a lot of interesting numbers on that. Unfortunately, I don't have my research notes in front of me because I'm on a different computer, but they were actually going through how many schools had actually had a shooting over a several year period, and it's really a lot less than what we think. Unfortunately, when you have one, it's on every channel 15 times a day for 2 weeks. That being said, it seems like it's a lot more active than what it actually is, if that, sort of comes in. We don't have a lot of school shootings. We really don't. From that standpoint, we sort of get to the point and say, well, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's not. My thing is, like I said, if y'all caught my video earlier in the week regarding Parkland, Florida, the Marjory Stoneman Douglas, I think it's absolutely awful when we have something happen at a school and you might have had 2 or 3 teachers at the school that, guess what? They happen to be, CWP holders, or they're, former military or former law enforcement, or they've got the experience, or, they train. Yeah. I had a riflery coach who was ex-Army for a homeroom teacher when I was in 7th grade. I would have been fine with him packing. Chances are he probably was, but he never told us. And then I think you've got a great point there. It seems to me that the idea teachers could be armed would deter someone with nefarious intentions. Yeah, we've seen a lot of these signs spring up on these schools. Our staff are armed. If you come into this school trying to do our children harm, they will take all necessary steps. Okay. But Tennessee is doing this. They're passing the law that enables teachers who want to, school districts that want to do something. I'm 100% on board with it. Enable them. Don't take the tool out of their toolbox. Leave it there. If they choose not to use it, that's fine, but don't take it away from them randomly. That being said, again, there's a big pushback on it. I don't see that pushback doing any good. It blew through the legislature kind of like a hot knife through butter, along with protesters trying to take over the Tennessee State House while they did it, screeching something about everyone's blood's going to be on your hands, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, because it's going to make so much more sense that way, right? Okay. Also, Tennessee notices in court. There is a case still pending in court trying to get the release of the Covenant School information, the documents that were there. It's gotten real interesting. They went through a bunch of hearings over the last week and pretty much trying to get this stuff released. Just the snippets that have leaked out so far have been quite interesting, especially to someone like me who teaches this stuff, who talks to teachers, who talks about preparedness, who talks about being your own first responder, preparing the game field the best we can. Guess what? To me, I'd love to see that information come out and be more public, more readily available. If it is, when it comes out, definitely, it'll be covered here and as much as I can. So that's the latest in Tennessee. We're going to be doing a little bit of a special on Tennessee probably in a week or so, because Memphis is turning into one of the worst knife and gun clubs in the U.S. They're going to try to top Chicago this year for murder rate. That give you an idea. Let's see. What else do we have legally going on? This is, I think, the worst of the day. Dexter Taylor. If you're not familiar with Dexter Taylor, who goes by the screen name on here of Carbon Mike, 51, 52-year-old engineer, lives up in Brooklyn. He, some while back during the pandemic, started getting interested in firearms. Now, he did own a couple of legal firearms at the time. He was a member in good standing of the West Side Rifle and Pistol Club, which, to give you an idea, up in New York, you actually, in order to join these things, you have to go through like a background check and a character and fitness and mental and all this stuff just to be a member of these shooting clubs up there. Real strict. It ain't like around here where you fill out the form, you write your check, and you're a member, and here's your card. No. Dexter, software engineer, audio engineer, inventor, tinker, whatever you want to call him. He started tinkering around with frames and receivers, trying to learn about the whole concept of like 80% and making guns and DIYing guns and building, what they want to say is ghost guns, but basically building and engineering of firearms. He is an engineer and a tinkerer, thought this was interesting. Well, they had a big raid on one of the companies that sold a bunch of this equipment, and he had purchased some of it, and so his name popped up on the mailing list. Lo and behold, shortly thereafter, NYPD SWAT is kicking down his door. He wakes up in the middle of the night to literally someone in his home, weapons, lights, everything else, SWAT guys, whole 9 yards. He gets arrested and goes to Rikers. This man has zero criminal record whatsoever, squeaky clean. He's an audio engineer. He's a software engineer. He was learning about building firearms, possibly looking at taking a gunsmithing course. Not a criminal, not a bad guy, super nice guy. I've actually talked to him a couple times in different chat rooms. Now, Dexter went to court, and about a week ago, he was found guilty on, I think they had 18 charges. They dropped a couple, but they found him guilty on like 13 charges. And he's looking for possibly somewhere between 15 to 20 years in prison for the mere possession of these things in the great city of New York, I should say, with the state of New York, either or. Now, as bad as this could be, or as bad as this could be a travesty, it goes a step worse. Dexter goes to trial, and he has a fairly, decent, well-respected attorney there for him. As his attorney makes the opening argument in Dexter's criminal trial, the judge interrupts the attorney and says something, and I can't quote it directly, but something to the effect of, and again, I have the quote on the other machine, I'm sorry. She says something to the effect of, and I quote, "Don't bring the Second Amendment in here. It doesn't count. You don't want to be talking about the Second Amendment. This is New York City. The Second Amendment does not count." Per the judge, the person up on the bench, gavel, robe, funny little, informs the attorney during the opening statement of the trial, "Don't you bring the Second Amendment in here. I don't want to hear about it. It doesn't count in here. This is New York City." Folks, now you want to talk about a city that's fallen. I know there's a lot of high-profile court cases going on, and I'm not even going to mention anybody with a bad comb over or orange tan. But you know what? If a sitting judge anywhere in this country says the Second Amendment doesn't count here, I think he, she, or it has lost their right to sit on the bench and should be walked out the door, never to do anything in the legal system again. The New York City municipal judge formally stated the Constitution does not apply in the city of New York. On the record. This is on the record. It's been covered by a lot of channels. I want to get it out there also. Dexter is a nice guy. All I can say is, keep Dexter in your thoughts and your prayers, because this is a travesty. New York City is literally letting violent, assaultive criminals roll in and out the doors every other weekend like it's next to nothing. And meanwhile, a 52-year-old guy, father, engineer, accomplished, electrical engineer, sound engineer, who was tinkering with some parts, they're putting him in for 15 to 20 years. And, what it's going to do to his children, his family, pretty devastating. For what? For tinkering with some parts. Now, the really, really bad part is Dexter, what he was tinkering with, I could legally tinker with in front of two cops right here. I could legally do it right in front of the sheriff or the chief of police right here. These were not like bad guns. These were not machine guns. He was not trying to make anything outrageous. He was tinkering with simple stuff. Minnie, I know you've seen this. Minnie, you've seen the stuff he was tinkering with. She and I were at a gun show a couple weeks ago. We saw the stuff. Yeah. Is that the quote right there, Direct? Yeah. Do not bring the Second Amendment into this courtroom. It doesn't exist here. So you can't argue the Second Amendment. This is New York. Yeah. I'm sorry. I think at that moment that is said, some federal judge should be calling the governor and saying, you might want to get that idiot off the bench. That New York has just decided the Constitution doesn't apply there. Yeah. Folks, Dexter, fortunately, FPC has been real involved or is starting to get involved. Firearms Policy Coalition, also the National Association for Gun Rights. And again, I've chatted with Dexter back and forth, and I even jokingly told him, hell, I grew up there. I'm a refugee down here from New York. Let's see what we got here. Yeah. Dear Your Honor, remember that whole oath to defend and protect the Constitution? Yeah. I think she should lose her seat, be disbarred, lose her, I'm even up to lose her pension. I think tarring and feathering would be a bit much, but, you may be able to make the case. I don't know. This is, to me, is disgusting on so many levels. Yeah, it's a travesty for what's happening to Dex because, he even, while he was out on bond pending the trial, he had to come up with $250,000 to get out on bond for manufacturing and tinkering with some gun parts in his basement and building something that they said was an assault weapon. Yeah, he had to come up with $250,000 bond. Meanwhile, and again, New York resident all his life, family, job, stable, no reason whatsoever to be a threat risk or run away from jurisdiction. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, this is the same city that has illegals kicking the crap out of an NYPD lieutenant caught on camera, and they get out, no bond, the next day and proceed to flip a bird to everybody. Folks, this is New York City. I used to live up there. And Dexter and I, we talked on, chat rooms and stuff in some of the Twitter spaces. And again, super nice guy. If after all this is over, if he called me up and he said, hey, I'm looking at moving out of the city, can you show me around down around South Carolina, places so I can move to or get a job or help me out anyway? I'd say, yeah, man, when you're coming down, I'll pick you up at the airport without a heartbeat. This is a good man who is getting destroyed. And this is, I think, one of the biggest travesties I've seen because, he had the wrong opinions, apparently. And before we, get into all that, I'm trying to see, maybe I pull up his page real quick here. They've got a Give, Send, Go up for him. And again, he is just a super nice guy. And the fact that he is, going through all this is ridiculous beyond all belief to me because Okay, fine. You can, try to find him or do this, that, the other if you want to, but 15 to 20 years in prison. Yeah, that ain't right. That just is not right on so many levels. And, fortunately, and I know, through the initial round of the trial, so to speak, the, let's see here. Ooh, I found it. Now, if I can just figure out how to share this across. Okay. Let's see. What do I got? That. Okay, that should work. Alrighty. This is, again, Dexter's Legal Fund here. Again, super nice guy. So far, he's got up over about 117,000. But again, we all know that that's going to be nothing with the way things are going. Dexter Taylor, aka Carbon Mike, native New Yorker, father, data engineer, 30 years in the software industry, licensed ham operator, musician, studio owner, carpenter, metal worker, old school analog electronics geek. This is the dangerous felon. He was looking at becoming a gunsmith. April 2022 is when he got raided. They're fighting the case. He's looking at up to 18 years in prison. But, that's kind of where he's at. And, hopefully not only the big 2A organizations, I know this is definitely on their radar. With that being said, even with that being on their radar, hopefully, we can get someone to take this seriously. He's in Rikers right now. He was convicted the other day, and that is unfortunately what it is. He's sitting in Rikers waiting for them to sort all that out, what they're going to do with him. So, with a judge who says the Constitution doesn't apply here anymore. So, yeah. But that's, like I said, we've got the Supreme Court. We've got our good in Tennessee. We've got our hilarious watching Alec Baldwin's lawyers run up legal bills for, no reason. Not going to do much of any good. And like I said, I think he'd be, second, third year public defender would be like, dude, why don't you take a plea on this and we try to get you the best deal we can, and you've got money, so that's not a big deal. You can pay a big fine. You can make a donation, maybe do a little community service, and be nice and kiss the judge's ass a little bit. I think you'd probably get out of it. Or wait, you can sit there and basically tell how the judge is not fair, and you can go out and make statements to the media about how none of this is your fault, and you're waiting to have their judge learn a lesson. Yeah. Ain't gonna work, Alex. Sorry. But that's all I've got, folks. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Like I said, I'm sorry a little bit late starting off today. It was kind of a travesty trying to get hooked up and get up and running tonight. That's why, I look a little bit different, weird, bizarre, whatever. But hope you all have a wonderful evening. Stay safe. Have a great time. And I will be back, if at all physically possible, tomorrow. I've got some really interesting videos tomorrow night. Will probably be Booze Fueled, Rumble exclusive, and probably have a few good laughs because, as you all know, I like to cut videos sometimes. And, in honor of Nikki Haley, I know she's out of the race and everything, but I still like this clip. So, what are you going to do?
Nobody likes Joe Biden. Even Obama said don't underestimate Joe's ability to screw things up. But we've got another issue. Some in our party want to see us fail, but guess what? They're out of luck.